Hello everybody. I wanted to share this video with you. I finally got to do a road test for all our suspension parts. The last part I put on was a front sway bar. Now this is on a 2014 SunStar 26HE, and different chassis types, weights, links make a difference on how this rides. But I wanted to tell you my opinion on how everything worked out, what we did, and let's talk about it a minute. So in our coach, like most F-53s, it was all over the road. And so I started out with a super steer steering shock. And I have to say that did a good job of keeping the steering centered, but still we had a lot of work with the, trying to keep it on the road. That really didn't help much for that, but it did center the steering back up in the road, so I'll say that was pretty good. The next thing we did was we put in Conan shocks. Now the Conan shocks, front and back, helped it with the bouncing or porpoising, and that really slowed that down. So as far as it bouncing up and down, you went over a bump or curve or speed bump or something, that brought the coach in control pretty well. I thought that did pretty good. Now neither one of these really helped control of the vehicle too much. But it did help its part. The next one that we put on was the Sumo spring. Now the Sumo springs really softened the ride as far as the bumps go. The Sumo springs really did a great job on that. They softened the ride, but to tell you the truth, I thought they made the handling worse. I thought they would make it better, and this is my opinion, but it seemed like if you swerved or wind blew or a truck went by, it was worse. The next thing we put on, and I can't separate these two because we did it all at the same time, was the rear sway bar. Is a dual sway bar for my coach, and radius rods. This was by far the most effective suspension part we put on, and I can't tell you which one was the best. I can just tell you that the rear sway bars and the radius rods improved the control of the coach probably 50% by themselves. That was a big win on that. So that was the one that I noticed the most difference on. The next one we put on, and the last one we put on, was the front sway bar. And this added control to the front, but was not as dramatic as the rear sway bar with the radius rods. Now on my coach, it's a 16,000 pound coach, it's 27 foot long. Shorter wheelbase, they tend to have a worse ride than the longer ones do. But with all this in combined, it worked really well. We have a pretty fair soft ride. The control is way better. So I would say if I had to give a number to it, the rear sway bar and the radius rods, I would say made a 70% improvement in the control. It also improved the seesawing the steering wheel, or corrective steering, I would say by about probably 50–60%. And I'm trying to be pretty conservative about that and not fluff it up. I mean, I'm trying to give you the best information I can. So as far as you rocking that steering wheel back and forth, trying to keep it in the road, that really helped. Also, I noted, and I think the front sway bar contributed to this, reduced the amount of correction you did to the steering wheel. So instead of turning it just quite as far back and forth, there's less corrective steering, and there's less of a degree of corrective steering. In the end, I believe the Sumo Springs softened the ride the most. We did front and back Sumo Springs, and I believe that did the best for softening the rides. So all of these together, it really took all of them to get the coach to a good place to drive. And you can kind of tell it, the controllable speed now that's comfortable is about 65 miles an hour. And before, 55 was probably about as max as you want to do, and about 250 miles you were done for the day. If it was real windy or a lot of semi-trucks, you definitely 250 was it. Today, about 350 to 380 is comfortable. You know, we get that ride and you're not slap wore out. So I can say on my coach, now my coach is loaded to almost its 16,000 pounds. It runs from 15.3 or 4 to 16.2 to 5, which is over a little bit on our GW rating for the overall vehicle of 16,000 pounds. But it just depends on how long of a trip we're making to where we're going. If it's a week trip, we'll probably be at 15.8, and if it's a 6-week trip, we'll be at 16.5. So we stay under our axle weight, which is good, but a lot of the upgrades have added weight. Also, just like everything else, the suspension parts added probably 200 pounds of extra weight to the coach. If you look at the dual rear sway bars, well, that's 100 pounds almost there. And then you got 4 Sumo Springs. There you go with another, maybe 60 pounds, something like that. You added radius rods. There's another 20–30 pounds. So all that stuff adds weight to your coach. And so you have to be careful about that. Now, if you have a really heavy coach with a 28,000 pound rating, that might not be as big an issue depending on how much weight they allow you. Most of these coaches, from what I can see, are allowing 2,000 or 3,000 pounds in cargo. Well, the time I added in vinyl plank flooring and tile backsplashes and solar panels, I killed about half of my cargo capacity. So I looked at things to make things lighter, but I do run pretty close to my max weight for my vehicle, which is 16,000 pounds. I'm always in that area. Now that's with a full tank of gas, a quarter tank of water, and empty gray and black tanks. But I thought I would give you this information. I'm really pleased with all the upgrades, and it just made a super difference on how the ride was. So if I had to give you a grade or a percentage on the improvement of the ride, I would say we made about 80%, maybe 75% improvement overall of the drivability on the coach. And I really have to say the controllability was probably 90% better. As far as the softness on the ride, I would say we're probably 60% better. I also did, just make a note, I have Michelin tires on there, not that it matters the brand, but I do run the air at about 82 pounds. I looked that up on my chart, and I took the max weight of my axles, which is way over the 16,000 pounds. It ends up being 17,500 pounds if you load the axles to the max. And the tires are well above what the max axle weight is. So there's pretty well be hard to overload the tires as far as that goes. But each tire is different, so you'll need to match. So just to let you know, I thought this was, all of these upgrades in combination worked very well. And I talked to some members, which is great information I got from quite a few members in the forums. My front sway bar did not make my ride harder. But I did get it for my weighted coach, you know, so 16,000, I got a sway bar heat treated for 16,000 pounds. So that kept the ride very soft, and it didn't have a negative effect on my coach. I also found out that if you're doing a coach, how long your coach is, the weight of the chassis, how much you load it. If you keep your coach really light to the bottom end, you know, you have a different set of circumstances you have to deal with. So I hope that's it. You know, you just have to work towards your coach. So you want to do things and put stuff on, you know, that makes your coach ride better. Well, I hope this information was helpful. It worked out really great for me. Made our coach very enjoyable to drive. By comparison, it was actually kind of scary, to tell you the truth, in a bad weather, windy days, a lot of trucks. You could hardly keep it on the road. Now today, if it's good control, works out really well. I will put a few pictures in as we go along here so you can see the different stuff I put on. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any comments, just leave them in the comment section. All right, guys, have a great day.